Alright guys, so I just want to do a quick video today. You guys sent in some questions, want to do Q&A. It's been a long time since my last one. So these are a few of the questions that you guys have asked in the lead up to my UTMB training. The race is now only tomorrow at this point when I'm recording this video, so I'm pretty excited. I wanted to get these questions answered for you guys. Fortunately, I can't address them all in one video. It would be too long because I just end up rambling on forever on a lot of them. But yeah, here's some of the questions here. So it'd be great to hear more about your hydration strategy, e.g. volume, how much time, how fast you consume your electrolytes. This is obviously a personal question and it's a difficult one to answer because everyone is so different. Hydration strategies are so individualized for every person. Obviously, it can be affected by so many different factors as well. You know, heat, humidity being the obvious ones. Some of us sweat a lot more than others, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a natural way. We're all built differently. Yeah, so it's something that's always difficult to address. Really, what I always end up doing is I just make sure that obviously at the start of the race, you have a good idea of where the checkpoints are going to be along the race. Making sure that within your training, you obviously plan your hydration to that run as well. So make sure you're starting off with enough water. So obviously if you're going off into the mountains, you know you're not going to be able to get any water along the route. You need to be carrying plenty of it within the race. And within your whole training cycle, you should be able to get a good idea of how much you're sweating, how much you're needing to drink every hour. And it really is personalized. I've ran with some runners and they've drank maybe a litre in an hour, or on the same run, maybe I've drank, half a litre, if that, still got nearly 2 full bottles. And, you can go on for hours like this. Everyone's so different. And obviously it comes down to how you're taking your calories in within the race as well. So a lot of guys that just rely on calories from their liquids within a race with drink mixes tend to drink maybe a little bit more, obviously, because they're trying to make sure they're meeting their calorie needs as well. So you do need to be careful. You can drink too much plain water. You can drink too much electrolytes within a race. So I think this is more what you're getting into with the question here. The top advice I've heard these days is just to drink to first. Make sure you're listening to your body, listening to that intuition, making sure you are getting some electrolytes in the race. So I try to make sure that whenever I get into an aid station, I'll leave with maybe 1 bottle of some electrolytes in there and 1 with water. But for sure, along the route, if I come across any fountains or if I'm just craving, plain water, feeling like I'm really thirsty, then I'll drink plenty of plain water in there as well. But just keep an eye on making sure that I am feeling like, it's going through me. It's not just sitting in your stomach. That can be an indicator sometimes that you're running low on those electrolytes. If you feel like you're drinking plenty of water, but it's just kind of sitting there, sloshing around, and it's not kind of being absorbed through the body, then maybe consider taking a salt cap or just making sure your next drink has got some electrolytes in there as well. Really interested in your training for this race. Just signed up for my first ultra and would welcome any tips, especially with regards to the mental side of training, as you mentioned above. So I think they were replying to one of my Instagram comments then when I talked about the mental side of training. I hope the first ultra is going to be going well with the training there. Obviously, hope you're taking it easy. That's always a good step when it comes to your first ultra training and first races, maybe on the trails. That's something I say to everyone if they're going strictly from the roads or maybe into the ultra scene or onto the trail scene with aspirations to going long on the trails. Just start it small, start with a small fell race, small trail race, just small local races that you can build up and just getting used to being more comfortable on the trails or on the mountains. That's obviously a big part of the mental game as well. But yeah, when you go into ultra and you're going over that marathon distance, hopefully you've got experience up to that point, maybe a marathon and maybe a trail marathon if it's a trail ultra that you're working towards. But I say that a lot of the mental experience, a lot of the mental preparations come with the training itself. So those long runs when you're out on the trails, you're going to be hoping to mimic some of those sensations that you're going to be facing on race day. Hopefully, you've structured your training so you've got some good quality sessions in there where maybe you have to push really hard into those upper ends of your zones and you're having to really challenge yourself and work hard when you're fatigued and when you're tired. Yeah, it's always within the training that I find that a lot of the kind of mental resilience is really built for the race. But of course, mental preparations, obviously there's lots of activities that you can do outside of your training to really kind of hone the mind there. For me, a big part of it is just getting to know the course as much as I can. And that doesn't necessarily mean from course recce's or being physically on the course, but just looking at the course profile, looking at the course map, making sure I'm familiar with the place names. Because when you're in the race, it's all, you might know it really well, but you might find you get to a point in the course where things look different, they look strange. You don't recognize the names of these small towns you're going through or how far it is to the aid station. So obviously having that information kind of locked in, doing your homework before a race can be really helpful. Making sure you fully trust your gear, that's a big one. And I think a lot of people go into a race maybe with a bit of doubts about the gear or what they're going to do, not having a good plan within the race as well. So really having a good race strategy, a good race plan, giving yourself a target time can be really useful. Really going through the emotions that you're going to be going through in race day, so what you're going to do in each situation. So think about, worst possible situations within a race, how are you going to deal with that? So maybe, what are you going to do if you get into this aid station, you're dehydrated, you haven't eaten for hours, what are you going to go for? So you're going to go for that electrolyte drink. What foods particularly are you going to focus on eating to get that energy balance without overdoing it? These are all things that are good to think about, thinking about those worst possible situations and how you're going to overcome them. Of course, spend some time thinking about the positive outcomes. That's something I really like to do. I know that some runners don't like to do that, but I find it really, really valuable to really just focus on the positives, focus on how you want to be feeling, so how good you want to be feeling, possibly at certain climbs. And really try and channel that positivity into race day is a real strength, and something that I've really fed off these past few years when I've had my best results. Is just going into the race knowing that I've done all the training I can do. I prepared early on. I planned my race early on so that I can just relax coming into those final stages into the race, and then be on that start line knowing that I'm ready to go and know exactly what I'm going to do from the logistical standpoint, but also the training is done and I'm just ready to race and think about that and that only. So these are just a few of the points, but obviously mental side of things is so big. You can think about things like meditation, just getting enough rest, calming down, work stress within a race week. That's something that's really valuable. So maybe trying to just catch up on a bit of work and get ahead of yourself in the weeks leading up to a race. So that race week, you can dial things down a little bit and have just more time for yourself, more time just to think and relax and to just be calm. What's your go-to when the going gets tough during training or a race? Good question. It's difficult to answer because it's always a bit different. Obviously, when the going gets tougher in a race, you can have those kind of dark, low periods. From a physical standpoint, my go-to is really, most of those situations, maybe you're low on sugar, low on energy, so getting a few gels down, something that's quick and easy to get in to get that energy back up. Could be dehydration, so making sure, have I drunk enough? Do I feel thirsty? Thinking about those kind of standpoints are really important. If it's an obvious setback that you're having within the race or within training, then just address it. So maybe you need to retie your shoe. Doesn't matter if you're going to lose some distance on the people in front of you. You might end up catching back up to them again. If you're going to be more comfortable and you're going to be looking after your feet, which is a really important aspect of an ultras. If you feel any kind of hot spots or anything sore early on within a long race, you really need to address it early on. But other dark patches, obviously, it can just be that mental fatigue. I find, like I said, that most of the time it is queued up to obviously some kind of nutritional issue. But also obviously looking up, taking in the view, reminding yourself that you're really lucky to be where you are, what you're doing, having fun on the trails or having fun on the roads, doing what you enjoy, which is running. Hopefully you enjoy it if you're doing it to the point where it's getting tougher within a race. And reminding yourself of the process. So all the training that you've done up into it, all those times that you've been out in the rain, the hot weather, the struggling training sessions that have been difficult to keep up. You've done it for a reason, or you're doing it within that moment for a reason, for the bigger goal ahead, to achieve your dreams, to reach for those goals, to make your family proud, to make your family happy, to do something for a cause outside of yourself, whatever that might be. There's lots of motivations that I can personally kind of drop into. But yeah, definitely for me, it's about remembering the processes, remembering my family and friends that support me out there, my sponsors maybe, but just making sure that I'm reminding myself that I'm out here because I love it and I enjoy it. And yeah, it's always a good day in the mountains. The last question for this video now, what was the biggest change you made that has made the biggest impact to your running? So I believe this question is specifically tailored towards my UTMB training. There's been a few things I've done differently. Mostly it's been obviously about making sure that my training is specific to the demands of the race. So plenty of vert. Obviously it's going to be in UTMB 170 kilometers and 10,000 meters of climbing and descending. So there's a lot of vertical. So obviously that's been a big part of the week, making sure that my training week has that specificity with the vertical in there and the distance, of course. Training with others, so I've been really fortunate to train with some amazing elites out here, some of the top guys that are probably going to podium or definitely have the chance of podiuming within UTMB tomorrow. So having the chance to just train with these guys, push myself to the limits in these training runs with them, but also having the confidence there from being able to kind of stick it with them, and also getting those questions, so asking questions to people who know this race really well, making sure I'm thinking of everything, being as prepared as I can be, asking all the tiny little logistical questions that don't necessarily come to mind straight away, but once you get into the deep kind of idea of UTMB and obviously how you can make up time just with being super efficient in aid stations or anything else, those are the kind of things I've really been getting into with this race. So looking at splits, being as prepared as possible. I don't think I've ever been this prepared from a logistical standpoint for a race, so I'm thinking that's going to be a good step forward into this race and into the preparations. But yeah, alongside that, obviously just being specific with body maintenance as well, making sure we're getting some massage each week, some foam rolling in there, some strength work specific to where my weaknesses are, so making sure I'm really just trying to strengthen those up as best I can for race day, and just really focusing on feeling good energy throughout the training plan, making sure I'm not overdoing it, making sure I'm not overtraining, waking up feeling good with lots of energy, having had some good sleep, some good naps when I can, and just going into a positive mindset. So I hope some of these ideas have helped you guys out. I really hope that your training's gone well. If you're training for UTMB or any of the races as well, I hope your races went well, because I don't think this video will be out until after the race. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Support always means a lot. Please check out some of the training videos from UTMB if you haven't seen them already. Some real great shots in there and really good fun videos, I hope. And yeah, thanks for watching and happy running.